I'm Zynnia from sister2success.com and zyniatv.com, and I'm going to interview my great friend Gary King. Well, Gary, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions.
Great.
Okay, first I want to know that, well, I heard you just came back from Global Youth Leadership Summit. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, I did. Zinni, that was the highlight of my whole year, going to Global Youth Leadership Summit. Every year it's held at University of California, San Diego, and there's 200 teenagers there from 25 different countries. Well, I wait all year for that event. That is such a great event. See, it's much, much easier to teach teenagers to be leaders than it is to teach adults to be leaders. See, in a teenager's life don't have so many spokes in the wheel as an adult's life has. You know, they think about who they're going to date, and they think about peer pressure, and they think about what shoes they're going to wear and what clothing design they're going to wear. But see, when you get to be an adult and you got all these payments to pay and insurance to do and all that stuff, so it's much, much easier to create great leaders out of teens. And especially when they're from 25 different countries, because you get to see how all of these different teenagers interact with each other from all these different countries. So it was really a great event. And see, what I would like to see happen is, instead of once a year, I'd like to see it happen every 3 months instead of every year.
Yeah. Well, I hear you have something called the happiness formula. Can you tell us a little bit about that too?
I do. I have the happiness formula. The last 6 months I created this formula because it appears to me that there's just a lot of unhappy people. And there's also a lot of unhappy people who think they can make themselves happy with stuff. You know what stuff is, don't you? Like the acquisition of stuff, the acquisition of things, you know, cars and toys and computers and iPods and all these other things. You know, they think they can make themselves happy. And the challenge with all that is they acquire it and then they have to move on to something else because they're still not happy. So I started to look at it and I went, well, gee, is there really a formula for somebody to be happy? Is it so simple that there's an actual formula, kind of like a recipe? You know, if you want to bake a cake or make some brownies, you know, you'd use a particular recipe, and if you didn't follow that recipe, you wouldn't want to eat the brownies. So, you know, for instance, water, H2O, 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen. It's a formula. Now, if you leave off the 2 and it's just HO, it won't be water. Don't drink it. Now, I created a formula, and it's based on 3 things. And here's how the formula goes. The first letter in the formula is F2. Okay? What that means is F stands for forgiveness. And the 2 stands for you have to forgive yourself and everybody else. And it doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter how bad it is or how mean the person was to you. You still have to forgive them anyway. Okay? F2. The second part of the formula is HT2. And HT2 stands for honesty and truth. You have to be honest. The 2 means to yourself. You have to be honest to yourself, and you have to be honest to everybody else. So F2, forgive yourself and other people. HT2, be honest and truthful with yourself and everybody else. And then the third one is, the third part of the formula is SW. And that SW stands for self-worth. And that means just simply, how do you see yourself in the world when you look in the mirror? Are you pretty? Are you attractive? Are you lovable? Are you valuable? Are you intelligent? Are you smart? How do you see yourself? You know, if there was a rating scale and it was 1 to 10, where do you rate yourself? You know, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Because if you look in the mirror and you see a 4 instead of a 10, well, that shows up everywhere. Everything that you do, all your friends, all the things you try to accomplish, if you're a 4, they'll be much harder to accomplish than if you're a 9. And so all those things add up to HF to the power of 10. And what that means is they add up to happiness and fulfillment to the power of 10, which means 10 times. So you get 10 times the effect from those three things. And what's really interesting is, this is not my concept, you know. Forgiving people, being honest, and having self-worth, this is thousands of years old. You know, it's not, I didn't come up with this. I just simply went, well, there's an awful lot of unhappy people, and I think if they just stopped for a minute and thought about these three things, they could potentially be a lot happier and a lot more fulfilled.
Very interesting. Now, can this formula work for anyone?
This formula can work for anyone, anybody. This formula can work for teenagers. It can work for people who live in China and India, people who live in Australia, people who are 40 years old, people who are 70 years old. It works for everybody.
Well, thank you for letting me interview you.
It was great. I always enjoy being interviewed by Zynnia. Always.
Well, thanks again.
You're welcome.
Bye.